Welcome to the Fight Against Mediocrity podcast. Today, your host, Kevin Kartchner, I am going to talk about the 6 mindsets I used to complete a marathon with only 45 days of training and how you can use them to grow and scale your business.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. You know I be on a what?
And stick around because the last one is my favorite. And if you can master the last one or learn to use the last one, you can make something that seems enormous, ginormous, like a marathon or any other task that you have, seem like a small, tiny ant of a task and do it with ease. So stick around till the end. Number 1, well, let me give some backstory first. So I am turning 30 next year. So this is technically my last full year of being in my 20s. So I'm 28 right now. I turned 29 here this month. And so 2022 is my last full year of being in my 20s. And when I realized that, I kind of got, I guess, a quarter life crisis kind of thing. Maybe not quite quarter, but I started to kind of freak out a little bit. And I said, I got to make this year absolutely amazing, best year ever kind of stuff. So I thought, what could I do that would be something that I've never done before that would make this year exceptional? And I've never done a marathon before. And so I put that down as one of my goals. And I was supposed to train for like 12 or 16 weeks. I ended up training for about 45 days and was able to run a marathon. So I want to tell you the mind tricks I used during the marathon to run it, and not only run it, but complete it, and how you can use those in your business and life. So number 1 is smile. During the race, I probably looked like a dingus running around, smiling. But whenever I started to think, man, I feel tired, I feel fatigued, this is tough, am I going to make it? I would just smile. And it felt weird, but smiling, they've done studies, it releases endorphins in your body. And I knew I needed endorphins. So I would just smile as I ran. I would smile big as I can. I'd smile at people that I was passing as I was running on the streets who were cheering us on. I would smile. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I would say out loud to myself, again, this is when I started to feel fatigued or overwhelmed or like, am I going to finish this? Because you have those thoughts during a race, and you not only have those thoughts during a race, you have those thoughts in your life and in your business. Like, is this going to work? Is this idea going to work? Can I do it? Can I get another customer? Can I hit $1 million? Like, these are thoughts that you have. So these are things that you can do when you run up against those roadblocks. I used them for this marathon, but they're useful in all different aspects and situations that you find yourself in. So the second one I actually learned from Jesse Itzler. And he told a story of how he could not break past, I think it was like 33 miles. He told this story at 10X Growth Con in 2021. He said, I could not run more than like 33 miles or something. And he said he had a Marine come over and they started running. And when he started to hit that 33 mile mark, he said, I looked at the Marine and I knew I was struggling. And the Marine looked at me and said, say out loud, I feel amazing. He's like, well, I don't feel amazing. Why am I going to say that? He said, say out loud, I feel amazing. And so Jesse responded, no, I feel amazing. He's like, okay, yell it. I feel amazing. So Jesse yells, I feel amazing. And he was able to run, I don't know, I can't remember how many it is, so I'm not even going to try, but it was significantly more than the 33 that previously had been his cap. And so I remembered this and I used this as I ran. I would say, I can do this. I feel great. I feel amazing. I can do this. I feel great. I feel amazing, all while smiling. And I think, I should probably study the science behind it, but what it does is your brain communicates to your body like, okay, we can do this. Let's go. We can keep doing this. And your mind can only carry one thing can be on stage at a time in your mind. And so if in your mind, what's on stage is, I can do this. I feel great. I feel amazing. That's what your mind is going to think about. And so I think that's part of the reason it works. So that's number 2 is I can do this. I feel great. I feel amazing. The next mind hack that I used to run a marathon is that I would actually yell out loud, like I'd scream like, woo, whee! I just like yell, because even just barely when I did that, I got goosebumps. So I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. Like, what am I excited about? And I started doing this in May 2021. I was in Hawaii with some friends, and we're sitting on the balcony. We had a beautiful view of the ocean on this balcony on the top floor, like second top floor of this really nice building on the beach. And I was just looking out. I'm like, this is amazing. And I just yelled out, I love Hawaii. And everyone from all the other balconies looked up like, what the heck's going on? And then someone else yelled and everyone started yelling. And I just, you feel good when you just yell something out. And so whenever you're struggling, whenever something's hard, just like yell something you love, or yell, or like whoop, or just like break out of that fear that's holding you back. So that's the next one. That's number 3, is just yell, shout for joy, whatever you need to do. Number 4. So when it started to get difficult, which for me was around like mile 21, I was like, dang, this is like, I'm forcing every single step. Number 4, the next mental hack for completing a marathon and that you can use in your business is, I imagine myself running across the finish line. Not only did I visualized myself running across the finish line. I imagined myself grabbing the medal that they would give me, putting it over my head, going over to my wife, my sister, and our son that was there, giving them a hug, being with them. Like I visualized and felt what that would feel like once I finished it. And as I started to feel that, I'm like, okay, I can keep going. I can do this. And you can see as I start to go through these, it's like, okay, well, I could probably do anything if I use these mental hacks to go through it. So that's number 4, is I imagined myself running across the finish line. Not only did I imagine it, I visualized it. I felt the feelings of it. If you've heard some of my story, I listened to the book The Secret when I was very young. The Secret talks all about the law of attraction. The law of attraction is great, but what happened to me is I read that book and they said, the universe is you live in a restaurant, the universe is the chef. If you ask for it, the universe will give it to you. And I believe that. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write down my goals and then sit back and wait for the universe, the chef to deliver it on a silver platter. And it didn't happen. And what I realized is I don't believe in the law of attraction. I believe in the law of action. So although visualization helps a lot, if I would have been like sitting in my car being like, I visualized crossing the finish line, and I never actually got out of my car and ran the race, not a very high chance that it's going to happen. So the reason it works is because I was actually taking action while I was visualizing it, and it propelled me forward. So how you can apply this in your business and life is when something's difficult, as long as you're taking action, visualize what it'll feel like when it's completed. Are you shooting for 6 figures or 7 figures in your business? Are you looking for new clients? Are you planning a big event? I use this a lot when I plan the Create Your Own Economy conference. I would visualize what it would feel like. I actually walked through it probably 5 times in my mind before I ever got there, and what I wanted it to feel like, what I wanted it to look like, how I wanted people oriented. And yeah, so in your business, what are you struggling with? And visualize it, visualize the outcome, feel the emotions, then take action. That brings me to my next, second to last mind hack that I use to run a marathon and you can use to grow your business. It is another phrase that I would say out loud, but it's super powerful, especially as you're striving to start a business or grow your business or get into sales or whatever it is I didn't come this far to only come this far. And probably like mile 22 on, that was my mantra. I would just repeat it over and over and over again. I didn't come this far to only come this far. I didn't come this far to only come this far. I didn't come this far to only come this far. I'm assuming because you're listening to this, you're on a path and you've worked and progressed and done things to get to where you're at. And so whenever you have the thoughts of like, is it worth it? Should I quit? Is it possible for me? Can I do it? Can I get to the next level? Just say out loud, I didn't come this far to only come this far. I didn't come this far to only come this far. I didn't come this far to only come this far. Let's go. And then in the marathon, it was literal. I did not run 22 freaking miles to only run 22 freaking miles and not cross the finish line. So my mantra for the last 5 miles, 4 or 5 miles was, I did not come this far to only come this far. I'm finishing this race. And just a side note to that, like, I did not run the race very fast. You know, I trained for 45 days. The most I'd ever ran before the race was 14 miles. And my Strava app, which tracks how many miles you run, showed that I ran 27 point something. So I'm still not sure that whoever organized the race had the right distance planned out, but I ran 27, so it was kind of cool. But I had only ran 14 miles before I did the race, and I kept repeating, I did not come this far to only come this far, and I did not finish the race in what most people would call a good time. But about 20-ish miles in, 21 miles in, well, I'll have to tell a funny story before I share the last tip. I started to think, okay, what is my time at? Where am I going to finish at? I was hoping for 4.5 hours, but at about 21, I was like, okay, that's probably not realistic. I want to shoot for under 5. And I did the math, and to get under 5, I would have to hustle compared to what I'd been doing. And I ran the whole thing. I walked on most of the uphills though. That's a tip someone gave me, is like, hey, don't waste your energy on the uphills, walk the uphills, run the rest. And so, and I stopped at all the pit stops to get water. And so, yeah, I did the math at mile 21, and I would have to hustle. I ended up finishing the race with like 4 hours, 59 minutes, and like 15 seconds. So I had like 45 seconds to spare. So it was pretty crazy. I had to hustle. So you didn't come this far to only come this far. You did not. You've got more in the tank. You can do it. And before I share the last and final tip, which the last and final tip, if you use this, will make any task, no matter how big, any goal, no matter how big, seem minuscule, and you will be able to accomplish it. But before I do that, let me tell you a story. And this is going to get a little TMI. So the reason I ran the race is because I was at a mastermind in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was sitting next to someone at dinner. We were eating at this cool seafood restaurant. And I said, he knew I was from Salt Lake. And he said, dude, I'm going to be in Salt Lake in April to run a marathon. He's like, do you want to run it with me? Now, what I should have said was no. But what I did say was, dude, let's do it. And so that's how I got into running the marathon. And the night before the marathon, I was texting him and one of his buddies. I was like, hey, this is my first marathon. What tips do you have for me? What should I look out for? One of them was like, dude, all I'm eating is Arby's beef and cheese sandwiches. Trying it out. It's a new technique. He was obviously kidding. The other guy said, my friend said, make sure you go to the bathroom before the race. I said, okay, I'll make sure I go to the bathroom before the race. So I went to bed and I had a massive headache when I went to bed. And I thought, I really hope I don't get sick over the night. I woke up and I was so tired, exhausted. And I usually don't do this, but I snoozed several times on the alarm clock. And to the point where like I had to get up, hustle, and I still hadn't gone to the bathroom. And the race started in like, I think it was like 15 minutes. And finally I went to the bathroom, again, TMI. And my wife's like, okay, we got to go. We were about 12-minute drive away. And once we got to our car, I realized they're going to have all the roads blocked off. Are we even going to be able to make it to this? I look over at my wife and I say, we're going to make it. I don't know how, but we're going to make it. I promise. And she's like, I don't think we're going to make it. And I said, we're going to make it. So we get going. She's driving. The GPS takes us. Sure enough, we hit a roadblock. We have to turn, go another way. We hit another roadblock. By this point, I am getting a little nervous. It's like 5 after when it started, and we're like still 6 minutes away. We end up figuring it out. We get there. She pulls up. I get out. I run to the starting line. And at that moment, they say, 3 minutes left until we shut down the starting line. And I started the race. So I barely made it. Okay. That leads me to the next hack on the next hack for your mind on how I ran a marathon and how you can grow your business, which is I pretended it was a 100-mile race. A marathon's 26 miles, but in my mind from the very start, I said, this is a 100-mile race. And every time I'd see a mile marker, so say I saw mile marker 5, I'd say 95 miles to go. When I saw mile marker 10, I said 90 miles to go. When I saw mile marker 20, I said 80 miles to go. And I did that the entire race. Now, you're probably thinking, Kevin, that is the most messed up thing I've ever heard. Why would you ever do that and trick your mind into thinking you're running a 100-mile race? So here's the thing. Because my mind thought, and our minds are great. I mean, think about it. Think about the excuses that you've told yourself and other people have told themselves to justify things and how believable we make them. Sometimes you'll hear people say something and you're like, I can't believe they believe that. That's just so illogical. And so our minds are very, very good storytellers. So I had my mind tell every part of my body, hey, Kev, this is a 100-mile race. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And that was honestly one of the biggest tricks I could have used, mind hacks that I could have used, because along the whole race, it was never like, oh, I'm almost there. It's like, oh man, I still have 80 miles to go. Let's keep pushing through it. And because of that, I didn't feel as fatigued during the race because I knew like I still got a long ways to go. Like just keep going, keep going. And the analogy I like to use is if you have ever gone to the gym and you're doing like bicep curls and you pick up a heavy weight and you tell your body, hey, we're going to do 10 reps of this weight. We're going to do 10 repetitions of this weight. What I've found is that a lot of the time, my body will get to 9 and it'll start to get harder all of a sudden. Like, oh, 9, that's hard. Drop it. 10, barely get 10. 10. And I remember one time that happened and I thought, that was weird. Like, it's almost like my mind programmed it so it would be hard at 9. So then I used the same way and I said, okay, I'm going to test this. I used the same way and said to my mind, in my mind, to my body, I said, we're going to do 15. And I got like 12 or 13. And I said, how is it that when I said I was going to get 10, the 9th and 10th were hard, but when I said I was going to get 15, I was able to get 3 more. And it was in that moment that I realized that we cap ourselves by what we tell our mind. Our mind caps our body by what it says. And so the limits, you know, I love what Michael Jordan says, never say never, because limits like fears are often just an illusion. Just an illusion. And so I set an illusion, that 100-mile mark in my mind. And so 26 miles, when I got to 25, it was like, I still got 75 to go, but really I was almost there. And so, you know, I didn't fatigue as much. I stayed brighter the whole time. I wasn't as like, I don't know. I don't feel like I felt as drained during the race because my body was like, well, we still got a lot of miles to go. Like, let's just keep pushing, keep pushing. So if you can master that, and I think honestly, if you know Grant Cardone has a book called The 10X Rule, I think this is part of why he uses 10X. And I've heard him say multiple times, like to someone, they tell him, hey, my goal is $1 million. And Grant says, you need to make your goal 10 million. And they respond, that's impossible. He's like, exactly. But if you shoot for 10, you might get 4. But if you shoot for 1, you might get 1. Say you shoot for 1 and you get 1, but say you shoot for 10 and you get 4. Say I shot for 100 miles and I ran 50. You know what I mean? And so if you can use these hacks, but especially that last one, like whatever you think your limit is, pump it up, and then you'll hit your previous benchmark with ease and probably surpass it as well. Hopefully these have been helpful. They've been super impactful for me in my life. If you're wanting more tips and tricks and business entrepreneurship advice, follow my YouTube channel, listen to more of the podcast, follow me on social media. Go grab my book. It's $15 on Amazon. I would love for you to be able to grab that. And I talk a lot about different, tips and tricks around mindset and fighting mediocrity and becoming the best version of yourself, realizing your potential, that voice inside of you that says you're capable of more, that you can do more. That's what I strive every day to help get out of you. is that potential that you have inside of you. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Have a fabulous day whenever you're listening to this. Fabulous day, fabulous night. You're amazing. You have unlimited potential. We'll see you soon.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah.